right, welcome in. I'm the Kodiak Broncos Podcast, and today I am going to share with you the main things that I was really interested from the Broncos press conference that was held earlier today from George Paton and Sean Payton, and I can't emphasize that enough. Main things. I'm not going to show you all 26 minutes, but before we begin, I just want to say hats off to our old general manager, or AGM, Darren Moogie, who is now the GM with the Jets. So Aaron Glenn and Darren Moogie met with Rodgers for 20 seconds and said, yeah, what you've been doing the past few years is not going to fly. What you were doing is completely unacceptable, and the Jets organization is headed in a different direction. And what's so funny about this is that he said they could have just told him that over the phone, but he would have complained about that too. So he was like, oh yeah, I flew there on my own dime, as if the dude isn't worth millions of dollars. But yeah, having him fly across the country just to kick him out and telling him that you're going to cut him, well done, Darren Moogie. As a bona fide Aaron Rodgers hater, this makes me very happy. All right, now for our feature presentation. All right, I am going to shrink my face cam a little bit just so you can see Sean Payton and George Paton in their entirety today. And yeah, I'm also going to drag this. I drag it up here so it's not in the way as well. Either way, here are the real nuggets from this press conference that you all need to hear about. Let's begin.
Zach Stevens, DNVR.
Zach Stevens, DNVR. This can be for either of you. I want to know the inner workings of how trades, specifically in the first round, come about. Are those conversations where you're already talking to other teams now and you have trades in place if a player is there? Or is it really just frantic? It all comes together during the first round?
I would say both, really. I mean, we make calls, this week you make a lot of calls. And then, next week, the more serious calls, hey, if this player's here, we want to move up or what have you. So, I've talked to most every GM in the NFL, kind of set the table, set the plan. Hey, if your player's here, when you move up, what's the range? And so you start talking parameters.
Jeff Legwold.
All right, so basically that tells me that the Broncos have basically thought about every plan of attack, potentially trading up, potentially trading back, and that's just something to note as well. They have their striking distance. They have an idea of how much they'd be willing to trade back, and they've already talked to every GM about compensation for that as well. Just thought that was a little interesting. This one's going to be more specific to us in general as far as building our team.
ESPN.
Hey guys, I just have a general question for both of you about the first round. Just in making the laps around the league leading up to this, there seems to be a feeling it's a little light in the first round this year in terms of grades, and I wondered what each of you thought of that belief, and how does that impact how you approach, how you do things in the first round, particularly as your pick comes up.
And I just think, last year and other years, last year we had 6 quarterbacks in the first round, so that pushed a number of good players, down to the 15s and 20s that typically wouldn't be there. This year, there's maybe 2 or 3 quarterbacks, and maybe 1 in the top 10, maybe, who knows. But we think, there's going to be a similar player at 10 that probably there's going to be at 20.
All right, there you go. You heard it from George Paton himself. We think that there's going to be a similar player at 10 to 20. And it is kind of a shame that the Broncos have a later pick finally. Now, I'm not happy that we have a later pick or anything like that, but the fact that it's finally happening in a class that's not really super stacked at the quarterback position or the wide receiver position or the edge position, which typically would drop, other premium players to the Broncos at number 20. But yeah, so you heard it from George Paton himself. We think that we can get as good a player at 10 as we would have at 20. So kind of makes me believe that we're not really in the area of trading up or anything like that.
In our grades, we have more players in that area than we do 1 through 10. And so, you just kind of work your board, you set your strategy based on that. We do think there's some strength in the, maybe the middle round, maybe 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Chris Thomas, Gazette.
Yeah, Chris Thomason, Denver Gazette. Question for Sean Payton, and if George wants to jump in as well. How much of a premium are you guys putting in this draft on getting more weapons on offense for Bo Nix, more guys with explosive play potential?
Yeah, I've answered this before and referenced it, and I mean this. There's 2 great allies that I think for quarterback play, to help quarterback play. It's real good defense and obviously a real good running game.
All right. So Real good defense? Check. Do we have that? Yes, absolutely. Real good running game? I'm not entirely sure, but that shows you where the Broncos' priorities are likely to be during this draft. And I think in this next clip I'm going to show you, it tells you, what kind of traits they look for in a running back. And, obviously we know that they value the pass protection trait very highly. George Payton, during Behind the Broncos 4 years ago, said that Javonte Williams was the best pass protecting back in the draft. Sean Payton has alluded to it many, many times throughout his coaching career that he wants a running back who can keep the quarterback upright. So this is very, very notable that they're hampering on the fact that we want a guy who can pass protect, and we really think that a strong run game could be our quarterback's biggest ally. Now, how could they go about fixing that? I mean, there's a lot of ways they can go about that. The run game, the problems last year weren't mutually exclusive to the running back position. The fact that we had no over the middle of field weapons, we didn't have tight end talent, like all that contributed to the running game being bad, even if the running back talent was just not entirely there as well.
Cross Matter, The Athletic.
Hey, George, as you guys seek to kind of add the trait of pass blocking from the running back position, obviously you had mentioned Javonte, that was a strength of his. How difficult is that to project at that position when you're just kind of looking at different traits of a running back? That trait in particular, as you evaluate a guy.
Maybe Sean can add, but you don't see a lot of college runners protecting at a high level. So that's, you have to dig into the player, the person, the build, the body type, his running style. Can you project to be a good pass protector? Is he mentally strong enough to be a good pass protector? So we look into those things. Obviously, we're looking at the runner, the pass receiving skills. Is he a 3-down back, change of pace like Sean talked about? Does he have the traits to develop in a pass protector? So that's what we dig into, our coaches dig into. And again, a lot of it is the mental part of it. And do they have the build to withstand the pass protector? We have it.
So yeah, that's just him basically talking about the fact that, pass protection is their number one priority, and obviously there's other factors at stake as well, but that is something we did not already know, or that's nothing we didn't already know about this regime as well.
I drafted one where I've been. I benefited from Adrian Peterson. I got there right after they drafted him. He impacted that organization for a long time, and if you can find a guy like that, you take him right away. And if he's the best player on your board, he can impact your team. I think you take him regardless of the position.
George took a first round back in the early second that everyone in the league, that was a good pick.
Dalvin.
Yeah, that was a first round back.
So you'll notice that they didn't go, we can get a running back later. It's still so dependent on so many other factors. Like, they kind of tipped their hand, I think, in this press conference just a little bit. They talked about the traits they want, and, I think there's more of just watching this press conference, I think there's more of a probability that we go running back with our first round pick than I would have thought. Previously, I was still not really on the Omar Hampton to the Broncos train. I was like, man, it just keeps getting mocked and keeps getting mocked. There has to be a smoke screen somewhere in there. But I don't know. But this one's the last clip I'm going to show you, and this is Cody Rourke of Locked On Broncos on Mile High Sports asking about, the current wide receiver room.
Yeah, Cody Rourke, Mile High Sports. Sean, before the Super Bowl, you had mentioned that you guys are higher on your wide receiver room than most would believe. Is there anything in that room with who you have now that you'd like to see something progress forward here this year, or is something that you can find in the draft this year?
Yeah, look, we drafted 2 receivers last year, and the good news is after their first year, we really like their progress, and we certainly see. Just take Marvin for a second. From year 1 to year 2, we saw the returnability, and we saw certainly glimpses in his rookie year. More production, obviously, in his second year. Troy, the same way, came in, picked things up. Cortland is such a positive role model and leader for these guys.
All right, so that's basically all I have to show you today, but you'll notice he says that we have a lot more strength at the wide receiver position than some would think. He alluded to that and basically kind of backed up what he said on the K. Adams show 2 months ago. But regardless, yeah, they're still high on this room. Like, even though they have been mocked first-round receivers sporadically, I still believe the fact that they do really like the room. And obviously, if somebody is their guy at number 20, I still don't think that, the current guys they have in the room would be deter them from taking their guy. If he is there at 20, maybe Tedero McMillan falls, maybe Matthew Golden makes it their pick as well. And, we don't want hope to be the strategy, because that's what happens. And that's how you get guys like Greg Dulcich, who you bank on him basically being the guy, and then he just doesn't end up being the guy in a sense. So yeah, that basically does it for me. So there's a lot of interesting nuggets in here. Once again, I only showed the nuggets. I didn't think it was necessary to show the whole thing. I just reacted to what I was really interested in. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, and I'll see you guys next time. Mile High Salute.